you sue that company to court. What we are also seeing, a lot of these e-commerce companies will even give you a physical address where you can locate them. So if you visit the website and you can't get a physical address where you can locate the office of this company, then you should proceed with caution. And like I said before, if a company, for example, if you do a transaction on your bank account and something goes wrong, a transaction online, where do you go to? You go to your bank. If your bank won't give you a redress, you go to the CBN. So it depends on who is regulating the underlying business that company is operating. E-commerce companies are not just, you have e-commerce companies that sell books. So it's essentially, it's a book store, but that bookstore is just online. You have those that sell clothes, that sell electronics. So whatever you can do with a company that you see physically live, you can also do it with an e-commerce company. And the thing also is that there's some heavyweight brands, there's some heavyweight e-commerce companies. There are companies that have been recommended even by ministers in this country. So you would do well to patronize those companies and not expect to have too many issues.
They get their products from within, that's on the domestic front, and of course from foreign, investors. How have they been able to manage? Because I know you're in touch with most of them.
Okay.
Most of the challenges, I'm very sure, is in terms of how to bring their products in. So in terms of funding and in terms of managing to get their products, goods and products into the country, how has it been like for them?
I would keep going back to, first things first, I would say that when it comes to funding, in the past 2 years or thereabout, they've about over $200 to $250 million has been invested in e-commerce in Nigeria, which is about, give or take, over 40 billion naira. That is a lot of money. So when it comes to e-commerce, the top names in e-commerce are quite well funded. And when you talk about sourcing items, the same way they source is the same way the guys on the street source. So I don't think they're having so much of a problem with sourcing. If we talk about problems, I think they're having problems somewhat with their business models. What we are seeing now is, let me give you a scenario. In America, what people do is they walk into a store, they see the item they want to buy, they feel it, and they have a feel of it. Then they go online to look for an e-commerce or an e-retailer that will give them a better rate and make that order. What we see in Nigeria is people go online, they check items out, then they go to the physical store to buy it. So you see a reverse of what we see abroad. And that's a major challenge for the e-commerce operators. In fact, a couple of e-commerce operators are now even setting up mini shops where you can go to see some of the items that you see online. So and I feel that is because a lot of them are very expansionist in their business outlook.
Okay, so they don't face that challenge of the customs or the clearing agents and all the rest, because they have to get these products in. It's not like they are fabricated or made here in Nigeria. They have to get most of these products in. So the challenge of clearing and all of that isn't one that they face.
No, it's one that everybody faces. So they don't have an undue disadvantage in that they are e-commerce businesses. Whatever they are facing is the same thing that the guy who is selling in the street is facing. So when it comes to that disadvantage, they're not suffering in that area.
But how can investors leverage on e-commerce to boost their business?
Well, e-commerce is one of the best things that an investor can invest in after the telecoms boom. The thing about e-commerce is, first you have to pick wisely. You have to pick companies that are not just there to grab headlines, but companies that would end up giving you sustainable profits. And I think that is part of the challenge with e-commerce now in Nigeria. You open Forbes Africa, you open any foreign publication that is featuring Africa, and you see them celebrating e-commerce practitioners, e-commerce founders as the speakers. But the thing is, why are you celebrating people who have just started? A lot of these companies have potential, but I feel they are celebrating while they should be concentrating on business. A lot of them, for example, you have some companies that have raised over $50 million. for just one company, and they're already being hailed as gurus. How far has this company lasted for 5 or 10 years? Has this company shown sustained profits? These are things that we need to look at, and I think that a lot of and this was what happened with the .com boom and bust in America, because there was this sudden awareness of e-commerce in America. A lot of investors were pumping in funds, and a lot of founders were receiving these funds. A lot of them had very media-worthy business models that were not necessarily viable when you actually start running them. And if care is not taken, that may happen in Nigeria.
Okay, so but that now takes me to my next question. Is there a future for e-commerce here in Nigeria? Is it going to grow as big as the telecoms company like you've just mentioned and other industries that we have here in Nigeria?
It's so long as more people keep using the internet, so long as people, especially in the cities, are looking for easier ways to do things, so long as people will continue to buy items, e-commerce will continue to grow. Now, it depends on how much you want it to grow. Do you want to grow 1% year on year, or do you want to grow 1,000% year on year? So it's definitely going to grow, but it depends on how people want, or how the operators want it to grow. And from what I see, I've said it in several fora, the current guys we are seeing now I'll term them pioneers. They will get things started, they will attract the buzz, but eventually you will get the people that we call colonists. These are people who will now come and colonize e-commerce. So the thing is, a lot of them are doing well, but it remains to be seen how they will do in the long term.
Okay, well, I just got this mail now from Salihu Adam Jida. He writes in from Lokoja, Kogi State. He says, Nigeria is still battling with anything that has to do with e-network. How would this e-commerce be an exception in terms of service delivery? Because the internet services we have using ATM, e-banking, etc., there's still a big gap in terms of effectiveness. What is the way forward?
I feel Nigerians are being unduly harsh on a lot of innovations that we have in the country. I can say, for example, from my personal experience, of all the times I've tried to use an ATM, the times I experienced failures will not have exceeded 5%. The thing is, yes, there are challenges. Yes, in Lokoja, you may not see the need for e-commerce, but in Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt and some other cities, a lot of people see the need. The thing is, in the end, people would always want convenience. People would always want to, because a lot of people are on the internet, people would naturally want to bring a lot of their activity, be it buying or social or whatever, onto the internet. So, and I think so far a lot of good work has been done. If you want to buy, for example, an airline ticket, you pay online. If you want to pay for your school fees, you pay online. If you want to order music or movies, sometimes people pay online.
Yes, and you know that the government's vision is to be among the top 20 economies by the year 2020. How can this industry actually drive this?
The industry can play a major role in that. I just feel that all it just needs now is for us to get the right business models. That's all. For example, I feel that e-commerce is doing somewhat well in the retail area, but what of business to business? I think business to business will do far better than retailing in Nigeria. For example, if a company wants, if a lot of businesses have a lot of headaches, that they would want to just go on the internet, search for someone reputable, and he will deliver. But when you're dealing with retail, a lot of retail customers are I would say agnostic or atheists. They have no loyalties. If they could search your website and you give them all the information and they go to the roadside and buy the item. But for businesses are more about sustainability. They don't think too much of pricing. They think more of quality, quantity, time, location. So I think the e-commerce would really grow, would really play its major role in the economy. But choosing the right areas of e-commerce to focus on are the things that would drive that growth.
Thank you so much, Tobina, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I've been speaking with the CEO of Solomon Hunt Limited, Tobina Okoli, and we've been looking at e-commerce here in Nigeria. It's something that is bound to explode from all the conversation that we've had here. And I'd like to thank Salihu Adam Jida, who wrote in from Lokoja, Kogi State. Thank you so much for your mail. Well, that's the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Harriet Agbinyi.